All right, welcome to the garden series today, and today we're gonna plant some top bunch collard greens. And of course, with these collard greens, I'm gonna plant them exactly one plant per square inch. And I'm basically using my hand shovel here, and I'm pulling out just some of the soil. Now, the mix of this soil is have some compost from my compost bin over there, as well as I added some worm castings, mixed it up, as well as you can see some percolite that is here that was left over from some potting soil mix that I had. So I did kind of just mix it all in. Again, I don't want to overthink it. Just make sure that I have space for each one of them. The plants will grow just fine. Now, I did get these from the nursery kind of last minute, and the goal is to make sure that, I got a good discount, but also just get them into from the seed start trays into the ground as soon as possible. So I'm going to start with these again, these top bunch. And you can see the picture here, what it will produce. I don't know, it has like a little reddish, I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's a tomato in the picture or if it's just showing the leaf and there's some type of bulb that is there. So at the end of the day, I just want to make sure I plant this. This what I do is I go to nurseries and I pick plants that I never really planted before. Normally, I start them from seed so I can see the full process. And then if you look on them, you can see that it's flavorful, broad, wavy leaves, produce heavy yield, matures in 73 days. So it does give me a little bit of information, and if you pull it all the way out, you can see also how to grow. You want it to be in the full sun. So what I am putting in is in a position, I know that the sun raises during the wintertime right here. So I make sure that I put it in a spot where it's not going to be blocked. Even if this arugula and the onions grow, it's not going to block where these collards will grow. So definitely want to keep that in mind where you position them. And what I do is normally just kind of squeeze the bottom of these because they do develop a root system. So you want to make sure anytime you get a plant that I just watered these, so they should be good to go. And just kind of squeeze the root system, but um, um, don't do it too hard. And you can see how I let some of them just kind of pop out, and that's all of them there. And kind of pick them up. You can see that they're well watered and they have a really good root system. This is the time that you want to go ahead and plant them. And what I'm going to do is loosen up because they've been in these seed trays for so long. What you do is just loosen up the top part of them and just loosen up the root system so that the root system can continue to spread out whenever it's in the ground. So this is a very good technique to make sure that you do whenever you're planting your seed starts. And of course, I'm going to put the soil just right up to this little notch here because these notches are going to grow basically more stems and more leaves. It passes collagen leaves. All plants grow their collagen leaves first and then they grow their true leaves. So these are true leaves that I'm seeing on here, meaning that it can actually take the sunlight, produce its own food source. So just kind of sit them all in the hole that I want them to be in. Do the same thing for all of them. Again, break up the top part because that's the part that is kind of normally the hardest because it's been sitting in the seed tray for so long. And then I kind of work my way down to the actual root system. Don't do it too hard. You don't want to interrupt that root system too much. So I'll do the same thing for all of them. And again, I know where I'm going to kind of plant them, where I'm going to cover the soil. Now, what is good is when you have these holes in the soil, is to actually put some. You can put worm castings in there, or you can put a little bit of fertilizer. And even though I'm giving them, I just watered them with a little bit of liquid-based fertilizer. It's something that they can take right now. So because that fertilizer is needed whenever you take them out of a seed tray, it kind of shocks the plant when you start touching the root system like this and start moving it around. But when you give it that fertilizer, it helps to strengthen the plant. So it's good to do that when you're transplanting them outside. And you can see that there's something already eating on this plant. I had them sitting outside on a little table that is over there, but need to watch that because there are different insects that eat it. But now that I have it out here, I can kind of build it into my routine to spray neem oil around it to keep insects and bugs off of it. But again, the key is to make sure that it has some type of fertilizer right away. And that's why the soil is so wet. I use some fertilizer, and I'll talk a little bit about fertilizers later. But what I'm doing is making sure that the plant is well strengthened so that when I put it into the ground, it will be okay. Because it goes through a little bit of shock when you transplant it into there. And again, you can put worm castings directly into the bottom area, but I put some worm tea and a little bit of liquid base fertilizer, so it's no need. And there's worm castings in this soil. So the goal is to go ahead and kind of fill some of this around it. Now, if there is some clay that's in your soil, just break it up and then make sure that you have it to cover the base here. And I always kind of look for rocks. If there are rocks, I'll throw it out. But if not, just kind of cover it up. Same thing with each hole. You kind of look around, do an assessment if there's any weeds or anything. Definitely make sure that you move that out of the way, remove them. Again, I'm filling it up just to the notch so that it's not overwhelmed, but yet it can still grow. You don't want to block those leaves. Those leaves are important when they're that young. And again, you just take the clay in your hand and you break it up. Those are good minerals that the plant is going to need anyway when it gets older, when it starts growing on its own. And because I broke up the root system, it should just grow right away. It shouldn't have a problem. And these are the 6 collard green. These are top bunch collards. And I will work on labeling these a little bit later. It's good to fill the soil. See how to make sure that they're planted. You want to put a little pressure around it so that the roots is in contact with the new soil and the new fertilizer. That way the roots will begin to know to just go ahead and start spreading. And that's it. Those are your collard greens.